How's it going, everyone? Meatytrucker here. And way back in 2020, during all the lockdowns, I was out on the road trucking. One weekend, I was on my 34-hour break, so I pulled out my phone, pulled up Netflix, and found Sweetheart, the subject of today's video. Sweetheart released on Netflix in 2019 and was produced by Blumhouse. So it was a low-budget horror movie, but I argue it was done right, at least for the first half. We'll get into it further into the video. But for right now, I will say that the movie was competently shot, and it knew its limitations. It didn't show the monster too much at first, and the cinematography was great. It really instilled a sense of lonely dread and isolation. It was just her, the island, and the monster, and it was perfect that way. You didn't know anything about the main protagonist, and you didn't need to know anything about her. It was great. But then the rest of the movie happened. The movie starts off with a slow pan up from below the ocean to reveal our main protagonist, Jen, washed ashore. She sees one of her friends is with her, critically injured. She stands up to scream for help, and the movie does this wide shot panning around her, emphasizing how alone she is. I'm bringing attention to this shot because, in my opinion, this shot sets a tone of helplessness and solitude, and you would expect for that tone to be carried out throughout the movie, right? You would expect? Right? Her friend has a flare gun on him, which will come in handy later in the movie. She pulls him out of the water onto the beach in an attempt to try to save him. She made possibly the worst decision she could have made and pulled the piece of coral out of her friend's abdomen. The shock from the pain woke him up, and he looks at her and says, "Did you see it?" And then he died. Instead of burying her friend, she takes a walk around the island, and we get a foreshadowing shot of this rotted out tree. She walks all the way around the island, back to her friend, and she looks at her friend's dead body and says, "Ain't nobody got time for that." She fucks off further inland and discovers a campsite from the island's previous occupants. She finds a pill bottle, which is inconsequential to the story, 2 things of coke, and a box of matches, which helps her in her survival. She also finds a parachute and a backpack with a scary campfire stories book, a stuffed teddy bear, and a Game Boy with the camera on it, which I would have thought they could have done something with the Game Boy, like perhaps have some luggage wash up onto the island, and in said luggage there could be a dim dying flashlight with 4 AA batteries, which is what those original Game Boys used, and she would have to make the choice of keeping a dim flashlight versus going through the pictures on the Nintendo camera and having a monster reveal like that, having a pixelated picture of the monster. And then later on, when she needs proof the batteries are conveniently dead, which, I mean, it'll work. But who am I kidding? The screenwriters wouldn't have luggage conveniently float into the island. That would just be silly. She quits digging through the unused plot points because she hears some rustling in the leaves behind her. The noises are coming from that hollowed out log from earlier, which was just a bird. Jen finally deals with the consequences of her actions by not burying her friend and just putting palm leaves over him. That'll do the trick. Good job. The end of the day comes and she spends the night underneath the palm leaves while it rains. In the morning, she discovers that a bunch of fish have washed up on the beach because of the storm, so she takes advantage of it. While collecting fish, she comes across a butchered shark, which was her first clue that something was wrong with this island. In the next scene, they show her trying and failing to gut a fish, and then later in the movie, they show her doing it no problem, so there's that little bit of character development that I have to give this movie credit for. She then sits down on the beach next to her cooler and what appears to be her backpack that I did not know she had. She pulls out various things that are inconsequential to the story, and then she pulls out her diary, which has her name on it, and then inside the diary are washed out pages, except for a picture of her and her boyfriend. Now, this is just one of my little minor gripes, but they could have used a better picture of her and her boyfriend. Like, you can't see his face at all. And recognizing her boyfriend will become semi-relevant later on in the movie. I can only assume she got the big sad from seeing a picture of her boyfriend. So she decides to go for another walk inland, where she discovers the graves of whoever was on that island before her. And she seems a little disturbed, like she's never been around death before. So it's not until her friend starts to stink that she finally decides to do something about him. So she does what any common sense person would do and buries him in 4 inches of sand. The following morning, while she's foraging, she finds out that she did not bury him deep enough. Now, unless King Shark is out here on this island, there's something very wrong. And she figures that out, so she's sharpening a spear and sleeping with it. Nothing happens during the night of note. The next morning, she spots something floating in the ocean, so she swims out to open water to investigate. The debris is a bucket and some luggage. For whatever reason, she decides to dive down a little bit and have a look at the ocean floor, where she discovers the entrance to Old Greg's place.
I'm out, Greg.
Where am I?
Greg's place.
She brings her newly acquired luggage up to the beach and discovers nothing but clothing in there. No goddamn AA batteries. The following night, she's at her campfire in her new clothes, fidgeting with the tin that had the matches in it, when she discovers a hidden pocket with pictures from the previous family that had been buried there, when suddenly she hears a noise. It's a plane going across the island. She scampers to get the flare gun, runs up to the beach, shoots one flare off into the sky, and you get the best scene of this whole movie. Look at it. Ugh. When I first watched this movie, that part gave me goosebumps, and that's such a good shot. I've been critical of this movie so far, but it's parts like this that the movie really shines and makes up for its faults. Jen, rightfully so, freaks out, runs and grabs her spear, and goes and finds a hiding spot. And this part is really creepy. She's hunched over, holding her breath, and you can hear the monster just walking around. The sound that this monster makes, oh, it's so creepy. They did a good job with the sound design. Old Greg fucks off, and Jen breathes a sigh of relief. The following morning, Jen looks at the pictures and discovers a pair of eyes in one of them. Jen finally decides that it's time to put some serious effort into getting off the island. She tried to make a floating device out of the luggage that had washed up, and it goes about as well as you would think. Later that evening, she crawls into the hauled-out tree trunk for a safe place to sleep. Darkness falls, and she's awakened by Old Greg in the middle of the night. Now, I make fun by calling the monster Old Greg, but this scene is genuinely terrifying. Now, I had to chop that up and edit it weird because I'm already dancing on eggshells with YouTube's copyright with this video. But if you want your recommendation for this movie, here it is. Watch the movie in its entirety. This scene, I want more scenes like this in this movie. Anyhow, Jen wakes up and crawls out of her tree cocoon and sees all the damage to it. She's just like, what the fuck? Jen comes up with a plan to catch small fish, throw them in a bucket, make some chum, throws it in the water to lure a shark, one of the small sharks, and she manages to kill it with her spear. She uses it as bait for the monster, which I don't quite know why she's doing this. I guess she just wants to see Old Greg. But as she's camping out, she accidentally falls asleep for a split second, and of course Old Greg snatches up his meal. The next day, she's sharpening spears when she notices something floating in the water. She goes to investigate and discovers a body that's been eaten in half. So she grabs the body and pulls it up on the beach to give it a proper burial. I'm just kidding. She uses the poor bastard as bait, like a fucking psychopath. That night, she's camping out in that same spot again, and we get the first glimpse of the monster. Old Greg goes and gets his midnight snack, when suddenly an airplane flies above the island again. Jen does make some movement to try and grab the flare gun, but Old Greg isn't having it. Jen holds her breath and tries not to scream, and waits until Old Greg remembers the script and receives the cue to fuck off. The next morning, Jen takes the parachute and makes a hammock above the ground away from Old Greg. She just spent the past 2 days teaching Old Greg that there's food in the trees, so I don't know why she's surprised when Old Greg shows up. She acts like she can just wait out old Greg up there in the trees, but nope, old Greg's gonna shake her hammock loose and get her. Jen falls to the ground and old Greg chases after her, but before we get too much into that, I do have to say, I love how the monster isn't really shown, like, fully revealed. It's just been little glimpses and silhouettes, like, nothing really too detailed, because it's just a guy in the suit, and shitty suit once you see it further in the movie, but the director knew that that was a shitty costume, so they weren't showing it as much. But that gets fucked later in the movie, but we'll get into that. Anyhow, now that that little rant's over, the monster is swimming alongside Jen and jumps out, and all of a sudden she's face to face with old Greg. She goes in with her spear and stabs him right in the chest, but old Greg, that just pisses him off, and he just tosses her. He tosses her one more time right in the ocean, his home turf, where by all rights he had her. Jen was done, but old Greg, he read the script and realized that the rest of the movie still had to happen, so he fucks off, and Jen spends the rest of the night in a tree. In the morning, she's dressing her wounds, and if you look at that big gash in her leg, it looks pretty serious, and you would think it might get infected or inconvenience her in some way further in the movie, but no, it's not an inconvenience at all. Anyhow, after she's all cleaned up, she notices something out in the water. She swims out to what turns out to be a raft with her boyfriend and another friend. He looks just like his pictures. From here on out, I'm gonna be brief and gloss over a lot of things. Mostly because I fucking hate her boyfriend and his Sancha, and in my opinion, this is where the movie starts to take a nosedive. So they have their little reunion. Jen feeds them and gives them the 2 Cokes from earlier. They have a little chit chat, but it's pretty awkward. Then Jen's like, we need to get the fuck off this island, and her boyfriend is just kind of looking at her like, no, we just got here. She's trying to explain about the monster, and nobody believes her. And then her boyfriend says the thing.
Sweetheart.
She shows them the pictures, and again, they're still not believing her. She explains to him that all of their friends have died and washed up ashore, including Resting Bitch Face's boyfriend. She tells Douche Canoe about the fight she had with old Greg last night, and then shows him the spear with black blood on it. Douche Canoe and RBF remain unconvinced. And then there's this scene, which, I mean, just the way they talk, it's so Californian. And Douche Canoe's, I just fucking hate the way he talks down to her, which is why I call him Douche Canoe.
I know this all sounds crazy.
Yeah,
I really need you to believe me.
I do. It's just a lot to process, all right? I mean, we just need a little bit of time, okay?
This could just be a me thing, but I want to punch this guy in the face. Anyhow, Jen asks to borrow his pocket knife. When she opens it up, she notices the dried blood on the blade. Later on, it's implied that they ate the guy that washed up, cut in half, but that never gets touched on later on, so it's just my theory at the moment. At this point, Jen's a little bit suspicious of them, but she still has her mind set on getting off the island. So Jen caught her fish and she's ready to go, but these 2 twat waffles are refusing to leave. They want to rest. And Jen's like, you don't rest on this island. Jen's not having it. RBF's not having it. Douche Canoe's not having it.
Sweetheart, are you even listening to me? We are not getting on that fucking raft!
So Jen's like, alright, motherfuckers, I'm out, and pushes the raft into the ocean. They see her. Douche Canoe grabs her, but she's putting up a fight. RBF hits her in the head with a paddle. She's out cold. Jen comes to, tied to a tree. It's a little on the nose for a British woman to be tying her up to a tree, but whatever.
Been docked for a few hours and we haven't seen anything.
You had to tie me up.
I think just for now.
Anyway, Jen is still trying to convince them that there's a monster out there. At this point, the movie is trying to exposition dump and convince you that Jen is a pathological liar, citing the lie that Jen told before they left for the trip, that she got mugged on her way to the boat, which I could have gone without, to be honest. Anyway, she starts on her escape plan, and Douche Canoe comes out of the forest like, oh, there's no monster in there. And Jen's like, oh, it comes from the fucking ocean, dumbass. RBF is like, I'll give you 2 a minute, and fucks off to go take a walk on the beach. Douche Canoe continues to be a douche canoe.
I just want to make sure that you're okay.
He continues being a douche canoe, exposition dumping, calling her a liar, saying that there's always black clouds following her, and then he goes into his villain monologue.
But you head west. You get found and brought back home. And then what? You've got no one else. You gonna go back to school? I pay for your life.
And you pay me back by taking the raft and leaving me here to starve to death?
You don't starve here.
I fucking hate men who talk to women like that. I mean, fuck this guy for real. Men like him are cowards in their heart of hearts. And this motherfucker is a fucking coward and a bully. And fuck this actor. And fuck this actor for having such a punchable fucking face. Anyhow, Douche Canoe's like, you're starting to sound a lot like Zach, who was the guy who was cut in half. And Jen's like, what happened to Zach? Alluding to my theory that they ate Zach. They were interrupted by RBF screaming because she fucked around and found old Greg. Douche Canoe runs to his lady's rescue, while Jen goes Hulk mode trying to get free from her restraints. Old Greg has RBF upside down because I can only assume that he was hungry for a snack. Douche Canoe runs up and bonks old Greg in the back of the head, causing him to drop RBF, but Douche Canoe soon finds out. Old Greg runs back into the water to consult the script, and the script gives the okay for him to kill RBF. Bet you believe her now, you fucking douche. Douche Canoe continues to be the pussy-ass coward that I said he was, not wanting to leave the tree until Jen reassures him that she's never seen the monster during the day. They go fishing and gather up as much fish and supplies that they can and load it up onto the raft. They get the raft out into open water, and Jen jumps in to the raft first, and that's when she sees all the blood stains, alluding to the fact that they ate that one guy. Douche Canoe jumps in finally, and Jen's just kind of looking at him suspicious like. This is the point where you would think that, you know, she would confront him about what happened to Zach. Did he, like, why is there so much blood in the raft? And there's nothing that comes of it. It's like, I feel like there's another cut of this movie with like an extra 30 minutes of fucking cut content. I don't know. Anyhow, Douche Canoe starts paddling when there's an old Greg sighting. Douche Canoe gets the fear of God put in him, which you love to see. Pussy ass bitch. They zip up the raft, which I don't know how that's supposed to help them, but whatever. Then you get one of the best shots of the movie, followed by the worst one. Like, imagine being out in open water, and there's nothing between you and the ocean but a thin piece of foam, and you feel that underneath you. That would just freak me out. This guy's fucking face. I can't get over it. I hate him. Then the monster pops his head up from the raft, and what the fuck is this? Like, what the fuck is this? Jen kicks old Greg in the face, and of course Douche Canoe is too much of a coward to physically fight this monster, so he uses a flare gun and shoots it in the face for some retarded reason. And we get another shot of the monster that should have been cut from the movie because they do not have the budget to make this look good. Douche Canoe finally lands a good shot with the flare gun and causes old Greg to fuck off for a moment. But then this happens. Which, I think that's what the monster should have done right after he clawed the bottom of the raft. Just yoink her right there, save the trouble of the very shitty mask that they don't have the budget for, but I'm not the director, obviously. And now this scene, you can see where all the budget went for the special effects, which it's pretty good, actually. She takes out the pocket knife that Douche Canoe gave her and gives him a little tickle with it, and he lets go of her. Douche Canoe jumps into the water, and old Greg is like,
What you doing in my waters?
and yoinks him. And this scene is meant to be more dramatic, but I'm just looking at this guy like, you have literally the bigger stick. All you have to do is just stab him with it. I mean, fucking Jen offended the monster off with a fucking pocket knife. Apparently all you have to do is sneeze in this monster's direction and he'll let you go. But no, he just accepts his fate. He doesn't fight back or anything, like a fucking coward. I told you this guy was gonna die like a fucking coward, and that's more than he fucking deserves. Jen swims back to shore, and she decides she means business. She gets out her notepad and basically describes the events that have happened to her on the island so far, just in case she doesn't survive the night. So she makes as many spears as she possibly can. Then she digs up the bones of the island's previous inhabitants and makes some knives out of them, which honestly pretty metal. Then she sets up some dry wood in a circle and puts some chum in the center to lure the monster in there. And yeah, she's gonna make one last stand. That night, old Greg pops his head up out of the water and makes his way to the island and takes the bait of the chum. Then Jen sets the ring of fire around him, essentially trapping him in one spot. She makes her first move on him and gets him right in the gut with the spear. She dodges a swipe and goes to retreat, grabs some more weapons and goes back in there for more. Lands another blow, gets knocked back down onto the ground, comes back up with a stab to the leg and gets yeeted into a tree with the force that would shatter the spine of any other 5 foot 5 inch 90-pound woman, but not Jen. She's got the power of God and anime on her side. Old Greg grabs a hold of her and he's about to end the fight, but she counterattacks by stabbing the ever-loving dog piss out of him until he drops her. She retreats back to the beach and grabs another spear, and she's prepared to defend herself further, but old Greg, he's not looking so hot. He falls to the ground and Jen goes in for the final kill shot. She cuts off his head, and that's pretty much it. That's the end of the movie. So I did some digging and found an interview from 2019 at the Sundance Film Festival where they premiered the movie. And the interview was with J.D. Dillard, the director, and Kiershe Clemens, the actress who played Jen. And apparently, J.D. Dillard left it open-ended as to whether or not her boyfriend ate Zach or not.
Let's talk about the blood on the raft tonight. Yeah, so we kind of just wanted to, the joke about Emery and Hannah's character is we wanted to make sure that like they were in their own movie that was happening independent of Kiershe's. Did they eat Zach? We don't know. Was he kind of annoying and they just killed him? But we wanted to kind of plant something in their story that indicated that like there's this new bond between them, and clearly something grim happened out there. And kind of like Kiershe said, it's like we are kind of playing these different realities, and is your life harder than mine or not? But we wanted to just like leave some breadcrumbs that, they are the heroes of their own story, and they try to eat our movie, but we don't let their movie eat ours.
So at least there's that explanation. Me personally, I still wouldn't have even introduced those two characters into the movie. I would have just kept it, just her, the monster, and the island. I feel like the whole reason why those two characters were even introduced to the movie is to introduce the concept of like Jen being a pathological liar. And just the way that they exposition dumped on her. Well, the viewer, I should say, not on her. That's the whole reason why they were introduced, just for that concept alone. And in another section of that interview, J.D. Dillard talks about the exposition dumping and the, like, kind of contradicting my opinion. I feel like they just exposition dumped, which is lazy writing, if you ask me.
Something that Alex and I talked a lot about in writing it, a lot of Sweetheart was kind of born out of the frustration of, you go to a movie and then there's like 30 minutes of exposition. We kind of want to just almost as an experiment have this Spartan approach, and everything that you find out about her, you're going to find out on screen, you're going to find out live, and yeah, there's not like, there's no seagull or volleyball to talk to, which aren't bad devices, just different movie. And we're going to have to just learn who she is by doing, and that is kind of the fun of bringing Emery and Hannah into the film, is that they kind of reset what we thought about her, even though like we like her, but they think this about her. And then at the same time, we just wanted her to not be an expert. It's not to like make fun of her, but just, if 99% of you are on the island, that's probably how you would cut the fish up in the first time,
Now, I'm not completely bashing the writing of this movie. I just much preferred the first half of the movie before her boyfriend and his Sancha got over there, because like it just felt so unneeded. Like I said in the beginning of the video, you didn't need to know who she was. I was perfectly content with not knowing anything about her, and like the way I would have done it, like maybe have the raft float in and their dead bodies be in there, and then there's like a ton of blood and the other half of Zach. So like you would get an answer and she would still get a raft. She could still stay alone. I mean, I think it'd be cool. You could still have her, like, still try to escape on the raft and have that one scene where she gets pulled under. Like, she fends off old Greg, and then the raft is just kind of fucked. So that's when she gets pissed off and makes a final stand like she did. I just think that would be a much tighter movie. I didn't need the extra slop of, the 2 extra characters. They just felt very unneeded. And like I said, I believe all they really were there for was to establish Jen as a pathological liar. If JD really wanted to establish that, the part where she was writing in her journal before the final stand, I didn't put it in the video, but she says, like, a lot of times people don't believe me, and that's all right, and yada yada yada. Watch the movie, you'll see the full thing, but I think that would have been preferable. Just kind of like a little mention, like, hey, I say a lot of shit people don't believe, that would have just been it. That'd have been perfectly acceptable. But no, we got Douche Canoe and RBF. One last thing to wrap things up. We'll end on a positive note. A little bit of praise for Kiersey Clemens, the actress who played Jen. Not a lot of actors and actresses can pull off telling a story with little to no dialogue, just through pure expression, facial expressions, and body language. And she did a damn good job. Here's a little snippet from that interview where she talks about what was going through her head while she was filming. And yeah, I just have to give her, round of applause. She was good.
It always changed. I was always remembering that it would be really easy to make the same face the whole movie. of just like, so I tried to create dialogue in my head and say everything with my face and my mannerisms. And I think going through my head was a lot of, I think there was a lot of, why is this happening to me? Because I feel like when shitty things happen to us, we do think that naturally. And I feel like Jen, she rightfully so is feeling bad for herself. And I think it helps to make, I hope the rest of you feel bad for her. And not in a way of, the goal isn't to make the audience feel bad, but it's to make you feel what Jen is feeling, which is, feel me! Fuck! Nobody listens to me, and of course this is happening to me, and no one's gonna fucking believe me. I might just die here, and you hear Emery say, you have no one. And so, I think, that's an odd answer, but yeah, a lot of times I was thinking, why me?
So yeah, like I said, she did a good job. The writing was solid up until Douche Canoe and RBF showed up, but I would still recommend this movie. Watch this movie. Enjoy it. I'll leave a link in the description. It's here on YouTube Movies. It's only like $3.99 or whatever to rent it. Alteori also has done a video on this movie where she speculates on where this monster came from. So if you're interested, check it out. Again, I'll leave a link in the description for that video, and I'll leave another link in the description for the Sundance Film Festival interview. And I think that'll be it for this video. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I've been working on this video for a very long time, and I am considering doing more movies. Leave a comment and let me know if you'd like to watch me cover another horror movie. Alright, well, please like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, and I will catch you later. Bye, y'all.
Easy now, fuzzy little man Peach.